Hello everyone, my name is Sahitya. I would like to welcome you all for this online discussion on the occasion of World MSME Day 2022. On this occasion, we from Team NSN, National Skills Network, organized this event to talk about India 2030, potential of MSME sector in boosting India's economy. Through this discussion, we would like to explore possibilities and scope of growth for MSME sector as MSMEs, that is micro, small, and medium scale enterprises, play a very crucial role in boosting India's economy. And I would like to reiterate the fact on this occasion that India is currently one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And by 2030, India is going to be among the top of the countries, surpassing the developed countries of Asia and also the West. And MSMEs are going to play a very crucial role in this development. So I would like to take the privilege of introducing you all, our esteemed panelists. I would like to start by introducing Dr. M. Srikanth, who is the Associate Professor and Head, Center for Entrepreneurship Development and Financial Inclusion, Director Finance, DDU-GKY Resource Cell from NIRDPR, Hyderabad. Then Ms. Anju Bajaj, who is the founder and CEO of P&A Industries, who is also the Chairperson, Skill Development Cell and Secretary, Laghu, Udyog, Bharati. Then Mr. Manish Kothari, who is the Managing Director, Rhino Machines Private Limited. Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Tripathi, who is the President MSME vMentor.ai. We welcome you all for this discussion. Thank you for joining us, taking our time and being part of this discussion. We look forward to your insights and perspectives on this topic. I would also like to introduce the moderator for today's discussion, Dr. Madhuri Dubey, who is the founder NSN, and she will be moderating this session today. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sahitya, and welcome all the panelists to this discussion on the occasion of MSME Day 2022. We are so glad to have you, and we are also delighted to have this combination of panelists because each one of you is championing a cause in your own way. Starting with Dr. Srikanth, who's been talking about the MSME ecosystem. He has written about it. He has also spoken about the importance of facilitating MSME ecosystem in India, which includes finance, which includes ease of doing business, which includes easy access to schemes from the government and so on. So we are privileged to have you with us today. And then we have Ms. Anju Bajaj, who's herself gone through so many, I would say, challenges of building her MSME enterprise. And she's into actually manufacturing PVC conduit pipes. And it's one of the rare things for a woman entrepreneur in India to come this far. And she's got 30 plus years of experience in the industry. And she's had, a lot of exposure to international events, international recognitions, and she's been recognized in many ways through rewards. And also we are privileged to have you, ma'am. And you're also championing a cause in your own way. Apart from being a woman entrepreneur, I think you're also championing issues like apprenticeships, work integrated learning, especially from Laghu, Udyog, Bharati, where you're heading few initiatives right now. And then we have Mr. Manish Kothari, who's into manufacturing MSME. He's the owner of this manufacturing enterprise, which is into foundry products. And Manish has had international exposure for the MSMEs. Again, another champion of the cause of MSMEs, and strongly believes in the potential of MSMEs to contribute to global economy, not just Indian economy. So welcome to this talk, Manish. And then we have Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Tripathi, who brings in the digital angle to this discussion that we are going to have. He's from vMentor.ai, and I would like to introduce him once again with the recent partnership that they've had with Vadhwani Foundation for mentoring the MSMEs online or through whatever digital, empowerment can happen to MSMEs. So this could be a very innovative model which they are trying to bring it into the market. So Sanjeev, welcome again. And we look forward to learn from you more about the digital enablement of MSMEs, you being an expert yourself in various aspects of how we can empower the MSMEs digitally. So I would request each panelist to take about 5 minutes to speak on the topic that we have identified, which is to do with one special aspect of the MSME ecosystem. And then we can have an exchange between all of you. You can reflect on what each one of you has said. That could be for about 10 minutes. Following that, again, we will come back and have another 5 minutes of short discussion on what could be some action points that are needed for the MSME ecosystem in India to really thrive and grow the way we want it to grow. If India has to become a 10 trillion economy by 2030, or whatever number we are all expecting it to grow at the rate of. So let's get started by requesting Dr. Srikanth. So please tell us a bit about the MSME ecosystem, which is evolving in terms of ease of doing business and access to government schemes, especially in terms of financing, because we hear many people have issues at the level of accessing few of these schemes. And anything that you feel, gives us that kind of faith in the system, and also makes us feel very positive that, yeah, MSMEs have a lot of scope to improve and grow.
Yeah. Good afternoon, madam. Thank you very much for inviting me as a panelist here. Good afternoon to all of you. I feel that it is an honor to share the panel along with you. Yeah, I just want to say that I'm a banker by profession, basically. I'm not recently I became an academician in 2014. So I worked in banking system for 16 years, mostly in corporate banking. So when I was in banking, I used to think that why people are hesitating to go to MSME segment. We are having large corporate, mid corporate, and also MSME segment. So later I came to know that most of the MSMEs are having some certain issues. For example, they don't have financial experts like chartered accountants, ICWAs, who prepare the financial statements, and they will not be able to supply or provide this information to the banks. And sometimes they don't have credit rating. I'm not talking about all MSMEs. Most of the MSMEs, it is like one man show or one woman show. So he is taking care of finance. He's taking care of that man is, or a woman is taking care of production, marketing, HR, everything, all in one. So as a result, they will not be able to have the financial statements as required by the bankers. It will be very difficult for them to pass the test of the scrutiny, especially at the time of appraisal. So that is one thing. The second thing is they may be very brilliant in terms of product, but they don't have market. Market linkages are very poor. And as you know that, unless they have some quality certifications, unless they have some export market linkages, it will be very difficult for them to prove in the market. So as a result, very few of them over a period of time are successful. So some of the pharma industries, pharma companies in and around Hyderabad, they have been closed down. They were financed by our own bank. I was in State Bank. I was in Export-Import Bank of India. Finally, I was in IDBI Bank. At the time, I switched over to the academics. So here, what I want to say that most of the entrepreneurs who took me for a site visit, they used to simply say that most of the MSMEs, they don't pass the test of time or a period of time. Why? Because of various reasons. One is information asymmetry. And again, they don't have adequate and timely access to credit. They have delayed receivables. For example, you take BHEL or even ECIL. They are in Hyderabad, and you also take big even private companies like Tata Motors or Escorts, Mahindra. All these people, they have vendors. You know that a typical example of automatic original equipment manufacturer, automotive industry. The only engine will be manufactured by the company, and the rest normal parts, maybe 60 to 70 spare parts, will be supplied by the small scale vendors, MSMEs. So within 24 hours, the car will be ready. Only the engine will be brought by or manufactured or designed by the original equipment manufacturer. But these people are at the mercy of the big person or big company like Tata Motors or Maruti. And those people, they have negative working capital. As a result, I'm talking about business standard. They made a survey, top 500 companies in India, they have negative net working capital. Why? They have more current liabilities. They need not pay to these MSMEs, and they're enjoying credit without interest. On the other side, MSMEs, they have to supply on credit, and they have to wait for the receivables whenever they give, whenever they release, and then these people have to pay the interest cost. As a result, their profitability will be low. And first of all, they get credit at a higher rate of interest because their credit rating is low. And then they will not be able to provide the information that is required by the bankers. So as a result, their overall profitability will come down. And if there is any shock like COVID, they will be wiped out. So this is what is happening in MSME segment. In India, we are having almost 6 crore MSMEs. But how many of them will be completing a business cycle, 10 years or 15 years? Very few of them. Most of them, they are family business oriented organizations. And again, the limited skill sets they have. They may not be able to employ highly professional employees because they have to pay more. On the other side, if you see that MSMEs, they also don't invest much in technology. Technology, every 45 days, new software is coming nowadays. So it will be very difficult for them to invest in research and development. So as a result, they will lose certain market share. So unless and until they constantly invest in research and development, they will not be able to grow. Of course, thanks to the recent definition of MSME in July 2020, up to 250 crores turnover, MSMEs are defined. So that means export turnover is also not, earlier it was export turnover is a part of MSME definition, but now it is excluded. As a result, most of the MSME entrepreneurs, they had an option to bifurcate or trifurcate their MSME so that they can get the benefits. But now, thanks to this particular definition, the export turnover is not part of the 250 crore, they can exclude. So it is a positive side, not only for the MSME sector, but also for the export segment. So India, as you know that we are focusing more on services compared to manufacturing. We can encourage these MSMEs to leverage their their prowess in terms of services, so that there will be a balance between manufacturing and services. And then recently we have 61 and above unicorns, and we have also decacons in terms of Paytm, Byju's. So we will be able to encourage this services sector, and then over a period of time we can also as China is a manufacturing hub, we can become a services hub. Recently, Raghuram Rajan was also telling, if you are focusing more on manufacturing sector, you are going to increase your carbon footprint. So India cannot afford to copy or replicate the model of China. China's development model cannot work here because of carbon footprint and sustainable development goals. I like his theory, one theory, impossible trinity in economics. One is free access to credit. Free access to credit. Second one is low interest rate. The third one is collateral free loans. So MSMEs, I'm 100% sure they will not be having all the three items. I will repeat: free access to credit, low interest rate, and collateral free loans. Any MSME, not only in India, across the world, they will not be able to have all the three on the same plate. So only two maximum they may be able to have. But here, one thing I want to say before I conclude in this particular round: even if they don't have low interest rate, if they have free access to credit, and if they have collateral free loans, they can smile. Why? Timely and adequate credit will definitely help them to scale up and then upgrade their business. So over to you, Dr. Madhuri.
Thank you, sir. I think you have actually presented the entire context in which we are, planning this discussion. And now I would request Anju ma'am to build on what Dr. Srikanth has just said. I think you can relate all this to your personal experience of so many decades and tell us more. In addition to that, maybe you can also bring in the element of, like Dr. Srikanth was saying, the affordability of hiring trained workforce for an MSME is still very different. Perhaps you can also throw some light on what is your idea about, bringing in hiring trained people, and also maybe trying out apprenticeships in the MSME sector.
Thank you, Madhuri. I'm so grateful to you all, and thanks for calling me here to be part of this. Yes, thank you, Dr. Srikanth. You have really, touched upon what we are talking about, the MSME of today. MSME, yes, like 2 years back, the definition has changed, but I'll take you back to the definition which earlier it was, because the scenario changed from thereafter. Very true. Yes, the MSMEs, what all points he mentioned, that was really related to what the MSMEs had been facing. And now we can talk about the micro and the small industry, which I'm going to lay thrust upon, timely credit and all. But when you're talking about the industry, when you're talking about the industry 4 coming up, when you're talking about the technology upgradation, yes, we need to grow up. Now, the timely credit and all from the banks, since he has been the banker and he is really, I'm glad that he has put forward the actual scene, what has been happening. To a certain extent, again, I go back, which I was mentioning, your academic qualification, this is for the entrepreneurs. It doesn't pave the way for you to start your own business. You need training. You need training, some sort of the training where you're aware of the government schemes, of the labor laws, of the credit, and how to deal with the bank, how to write a project report. So that when when you're academic qualified, whether you're PhD, whether you're MBA, whether you're, any degree you have, you need to train yourself to start that business. So I think that has been lacking. Right after 30 years, again, when the EDP program was started by the RBI and the government of India, still after 30 years, we're talking about the training and the skilling. But glad, like everybody has come into that stream. So when we talk about skill-based training and the scope for scaling the MSMEs, upgradation and all, the very topic mentions all, when we say upgradation and skilling. So the national policy for skill development only came in 2015, I think, the apprenticeship one. And this was focused on apprenticeship, one of the key components, for creating the skilled manpower in India. But why this was so important, why we faced this kind of a thing was because earlier the legacy of the business was into the family, as Dr. Srikanth mentioned. The legacy, there was a cut of the family, the business is run. So whether the children studied a lot or not, they used to join the business. So because of the technologies and because of the 21st century, what we're talking about, now this has become very important that you train yourself, you need the skilling manpower. So now when we talk about apprenticeship, I feel that this is really very important. Apprenticeship is twofold. One is when you are doing the training, when you're following the subjects and the system in different technology and as a need of the hour of the industry, you train yourself for the job. You pick up the job which you are interested in once you're apprentice, because it's on the job training. And secondly, while learning on the job, you can even start your own business, which paves the way for entrepreneurship. So I feel that now when we talk about this is equally more important. When and where, this is a question, when, where, how, what to do. So these questions, when they come into our mind, then we have only one thing. Earlier, there were ITIs, which were conducting these kind of trainings, but it was not conducive to the industry environment. And now, since we have moved forward, so now this, your ministry, the Skill Development Ministry and Entrepreneurship Ministry has taken forward and says that, when one says that you earn only and prosper and head towards its growth if you upgrade yourself. So whether in the form of design or whether in the form of the machinery upgradation, we need to undergo, fulfill the gap, which we realize that we need to have a skill-based training. So especially for each of the industrial sector, we have so many industrial sectors in our country. So each one of them. I don't agree a little bit with Dr. Srikanth when we in case we work more on the management. But then our task, my information task for the Laghu Bharati is, as I mentioned, that apprenticeship, once you're skilling yourself, you're undergoing the training, you're doing the under-job training, then you start with the job, because see, India is not a job-oriented sector. We have now it's the service sector or the trading sector which has been added to the MSME now. But I still feel that to bridge the gap between the employment and the unemployment, you need to have an entrepreneurship, need to have whether small or whether micro units, or because without them, even the large industry won't survive. They also need some kind of, some small vendors which they are into the work. Yes, we have to see like the access to the credit, how we can be a help to them, because the thing doesn't finish after the training or after the apprenticeship or the thing. We need to move forward and grow. And I believe that, like the education is just the knowledge base. I mean, we'll agree to it. But the skilling and all, you have, you can say, hunar, like we say, you need to have a hunar in yourself. And everybody has little odd one. So it's just to polish it. Once you go to the training, you need to polish it. And you feel so confident after that. I've seen now why the industry has not been adopted till date since this act has come 5 years before this. There were certain issues which we were discussing with them. There were certain issues with the labor laws. There were certain, and they were not, the act was not clear how to go about it. Whether we are going to have, the industry is going to adopt the apprentice, then how we are going to, because he should not be taken into the regular workforce. Because as you know, we are also dealing with the labor laws at the same time and the labor codes and all. And so they don't accept that. So once they start accepting, and now the things are changing. So I'll come into it later on, how we have presented our part, that how they should be adopted and how they need to change themselves. So then this is taken forward in the industry, because there is still a gap between the industry and the apprenticeship. Once this gap is filled by the government side and by the clarifications and by the amendments, then I think the industry can come forward to accept it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anju, for sharing your views on the need for apprenticeship promotion in the MSME segment and capacity building, obviously for productivity enhancement, growth, and also revenue growth. I would like to invite Mr. Manish Kothari from his experience into various aspects of MSME sector, also capacity building, apprenticeships, and he's also running a training center, which is, based on Swiss model of training. With all this combined experience, Manish, what do you have to say about the potential of Indian MSMEs to go global and contribute to global economy, not just to the Indian economy? You are on mute, Manish.
So thank you, Madhuriji, and thank you for inviting me to the panel, and namaskar to everybody. So it's a very good context because I think Dr. Srikanth has already set the tone that MSMEs are a very important part of any economy, and Anjuji is talking about the skilling requirements and apprenticeship or on-the-job training. So let me share a few perspectives. One, when Dr. Srikanth mentioned about family businesses or people, the business is growing in the family, or we have discussed about it. It's basically, it's more of an experiential learning ecosystem which has been existing, and it's more about the culture of business rather than the skills of business. So I have been part of a culture building, capacity building program of the United Nations, EMPRETEC. And I've started to understanding that skills are something which you can learn by studying, but competencies, which are the way you conduct your business, comes from experience. And that ecosystem somewhere in our country is not so well structured. So when we try to teach skills of running a business, we can teach how to read a balance sheet, we can teach how to manage business or understand labor laws. But unfortunately, entrepreneurship, I think from my experience, I have learned only because I have gone through the system of learning under my father or learning from peers in the industry. And that is one part which could, and we have so much experience in our country that we have a immense potential to leverage our experience and knowledge. So we are talking of when we look at the global supply chain and you want to integrate into global supply chain, India has one more very important role, which I would like to mention is in all the developing countries, India has a potential to go and set up plants over there in those countries. So rather than only supplying across the border, we can also supply technology and joint ventures across the border as MSMEs. See, we have been recipients of technology. We have been recipients of such knowledge from Europe, from America, from other countries. But MSMEs today have still not thought of, can I go and set up a shop in, for example, South Africa or in Angola or in Saudi Arabia? Can an MSME do that? We limit that only to corporates, but I think I started to come to the understanding this is possible. And going through this process for last 4 years, it was 4 years ago that I was participating in one MSME ministry program, scoping mission of 2030. And there I started to understand that this is also possible. So this is one thought which I would like to leave, that let us not think only about our borders. We can, and not only think of exporting finished product, because ultimately, like India has done internalization, over the next 10 to 15 years, the country which is importing is going to do the same thing. So there's a risk of losing our business over a period of time. And that is what we need to recognize. The second, and related to this, is the on-the-job training. So which is connected to the skill. So on-the-job training skills we are able to teach in ITIs or in institutes. But when it comes to understanding how to use those skills is where the OGT is helping. Same way as OGT. So I call experiential learning, whether it is learning to be an entrepreneur or learning to how to do a job. MSMEs would play a very important role in building this capacity of people because of their nimbleness, their flexibility, and access of people to the owners while you are training. What happens in large corporates, you get into a system and there's a lot of restrictions, limitations to change because you are working into an ecosystem. MSMEs are far more adaptive, and if you look at the numbers and the spread and the variety, you have access to an owner. So in the industrial area where I stay, I've got 800 industries over here. So you've got 800 industries where you can go and do OGTs, which can be a machine shop, it can be fabrication, it can be stitching. So across the board, you can have OGTs, and MSMEs would play a very important role if you are to really build the skills in our country. We are going through this process. We do a lot of internship and OGT. We keep experimenting at our place. And I found the results when students, not after finishing their education, while they are learning, while they are in the second year or they are during the ITI, even in our training school, they are learning in the industry environment itself. So the OGT is happening while before they get certified. Because the capacity for people to absorb after certification goes down, because now their mode has shifted to getting money and not to get knowledge, and that is a shift which would be very important from the scale. So there are two perspectives, and the third, when we talk of something related to Dr. Srikanth touched a very important point, that corporates are working with negative working capital and MSMEs are working with positive working capital. So this is a reflection of not having value chains built into our country. The MSMEs now there's only a supplier and buyer relationship. It's not a value chain where the buyer is interested in the success of the MSME. The buyer is at this moment to a large extent limited to the success of his business, not to the supplier's business. And that is again a mindset shift which would be helpful. So these are my opening remarks. Thank you, Madhuri.
Thank you, Manish. And they are all very experiential, as we can feel them, the way you have narrated all the points. And one important point which you picked up is about competency, about using that skill in solving a problem while you're there. And this is where I think access to mentoring becomes very important. And you were also talking about MSMEs, multitasking, and many other things which are typically attached to an MSME identity. So So when we talk about mentoring and creating that ecosystem to access mentoring and other forms of incubation support, today I think technology can be a big enabler, and that's where we have Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi, who is from vmentor.ai, and with reference to the recent partnership with Vadhwani Foundation, where they are going to enable a lot of MSMEs with various incubation support. We would like to have him speak about this, not only the partnership, but his views from his experience about how digital enablement can transform the entire ecosystem of MSMEs. So over to you, Mr. Sanjeev.
Thank you, Madhuri. I'm really glad to be here, and I feel, looking at the experience of Mrs. Anu and Manish, that I'm a new entrepreneur, having spent about 28 odd years with the industry. Working, starting from I'm an engineer and an MBA, and also a graduate from Harvard Business School. Having worked initial years in Tata Steel for about 8 years in Jamshedpur, I was fortunate to experience manufacturing in the real sense. And I've gone through the whole quality journey of total quality management and business excellence. From there on, I moved on to work for a large global IT firm for a few years, and then with two global banks, the Royal Bank of Scotland and Credit Suisse, where I was working in the IT and the risk management space. Given I'm a new entrepreneur, only started pre-pandemic, and vmentor.ai is a company which is focused on building a world-class mentoring organization. As Madhuri mentioned, I think when we started exploring this whole MSME business, and I'm personally very passionate about this. We thought that instead of just reading some newspapers, some articles here and there, why not do some deep dive, really understand why is it that in spite of all the government policies, all the investments, you hear all the cheers when the budget is rolled out every year, that the budget for MSME has gone up, we still don't see that big difference happening, right? And I have personally spent several, I would say 100 hours, or 100 man days to actually study the whole MSME sector, including my team. And we have recently been working with about 24 management interns who we have hired from some top management colleges to actually go around the country and study how the MSMEs are really experiencing the whole work that they do currently, in the southern part of the India, the western part of the India. And some of the stuff that I'll talk about is from that experience. So we literally spend almost like 1400 man days of effort of research to make sure that we bring some, we understand the whole landscape. And I think having two of entrepreneurs here, and I'm just reflecting, and you guys can tell me whether that's our correct reading. What we have found, personally talking to the founders and the owners of business, is that they have been supported by advisors and consultants, but that trusted advice, which looks at the benefit of the entrepreneur, benefit of the owner, has been missing somewhere. Our studies has indicated that people want to fit solutions. They don't want to listen to the owners and founders of MSMEs and hear their stories, hear their success stories and how they can be helped, but rather they want to just put a solution which was deployed in a large company into a small and a micro company, saying this will work here as well. And I think that force fitting has been one of the challenges. And some of the MSMEs kind of told me, even small and medium enterprises, that they took help of consultants, and reports were given to us, but nobody helped them what to do with those reports, how to work on improvements. And that is where, when vMentor was designing its offering, we said the only way we can succeed is by being with the MSME. So our USP is being hands-on. I'm a hands-on engineer, so I love going to plant and actually sitting with the worker and seeing what he or she is doing and how can we help him really improve the process. So we put this USP of hands-on approach. How can we really work on a outcome driven? So if I come to Manish and say, Manish, I can help reduce cost by 20%, then actually I'm going to be with Manish for the period that 20% cost reduction is achieved, rather than just giving him 10 ideas and going back, taking the money and saying, Manish, now you work on that. So that's what vMentor is all about. And we are building a platform where we are bringing experts on our platform, very curated manner, 20 years to 40 years experience mentors are joining us, people who have done big roles in the in industry, and they are now very passionate about helping MSMEs. Now, coming back to digital, Madhuri, that you kind of asked me to work upon, one of the study that, as I mentioned, our interns were doing, we found that, it's such a, I will not use the word disaster, but, I think the lack of focus is visible. Some of the data that I'll share with you will look really, if we want to be a $10 trillion economy by 2030, the pace at which corporates are growing, if MSMEs don't keep the same pace, I'm not sure whether corporates can really achieve their goals and targets. And as Manish said, it cannot work if you do a supplier and a vendor relationship. It has to be the full ecosystem, and that is why one of the offering that we have is we want to work with corporates to say, how can we really help you build this ecosystem? Look at your vendors as partners and make sure that you don't only give them a target to say reduce cost, reduce cost, reduce cost. And that's what most of the micro and small owners tell me. Sanjeev, every year they tell me 6% reduction. Now there's a limit to which I can reduce, right? I can't keep reducing, then the quality will suffer. That understanding the corporate needs to really build, to understand when the corporate want a MSME to develop a new product or enhance a product, they need to understand there's an investment required. Who supports that investment, right? That's also a very important element. Now, coming to the digital, I think it's been a very eye-opening for us when we found that out of some 6.3 crore MSMEs, 90% or more don't even have a website. So imagine in today's digital world, when the normal way of marketing and sales has now moved to become a digital marketing and sales, we want to go global. And if you want to export in Africa and Middle East and parts of Europe and parts of ASEAN, how will your customer come to know about your product when you are not even on the web? So that's a real challenge we find, and I think we want to take baby steps. We really want to work with our micro and small enterprises to enable them to go digital. We actually found that, there is no lack of investment that they can make. MSMEs have told us that, Sanjeev, can you give us a IT solution which can cost 50,000 a year? I can afford that. But somebody comes and tells me, spend 10 lakh a year. I can't do that. So somebody has to understand my business and say, what can you afford and what can you offer? You can't be just fitting a solution. It has to be fit for purpose solution. So we in fact, as an organization, therefore are trying to build an ecosystem where we can bring like-minded companies who can actually provide, fit for purpose, low cost IT solutions to our micro and small enterprises. At 1 lakh rupees an annum, can IT solution be provided? That's something that we are kind of working on, and what we call as IT in a box. So my personal feeling is, if I'm a 2 crore turnover company, I need a different IT. If I'm a 5 crore company, I need a different IT, right? So the whole deployment of cloud technology and the SaaS technology, I think they need to be combined together to leverage and build really low cost IT solutions for our micro and small enterprises. I'm not talking about mid-size, because mid-size have grown to be 100 crore, 50 crore plus. They can actually afford some of the IT and digital enablement work, but unfortunately our micro and small cannot. And obviously they also lack the required skill. Even the advisors that they have, if you typically look at who advises a micro and small enterprises, typically a chartered accountant, or somebody who is a retired person from the manufacturing sector. He may actually not bring, you can't tell him to have all the skills. He has himself not experienced digital maybe. He's from 30 years, 35 years of experience, so he may not have seen the new digital way of digital marketing and what tools, can be used and how digital marketing can help you reach, places, right? So just conscious of time, I think I just want to kind of highlight this aspect that, having very simple, low cost, digital solutions need to be available. And I would definitely like to suggest to the government, if somebody is listening from that perspective, that let's make sure that, it is the ownership of the industry associations, that they actually give free of cost IT solutions to micro enterprises to start with. Make sure that somebody really makes it a program, and every bunch of 100 and 500 and 1,000 micro enterprises website are developed, payment platforms are integrated, and they are provided marketing and sales support. So that will be my starting pitch, Madhuri, for the MSME sector.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjeev, for detailing out the entire vision you have for digital enablement and empowerment of MSMEs. Now, for next 5 minutes, I would request all of you to reflect on each other's points. Would you have anything to say to the other panelists before we proceed to the second part of this discussion? Any observations? Any observations for Dr. Srikanth?
Yeah, Anju ma'am has, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you permit me, I will say that, yeah, Mr. Manish Kothari mentioned that, business cannot be learned in business schools, or it has to be taught in a family-oriented atmosphere, or through, through experiential learning. Because, for example, Ambani is not an MBA. Similarly, Kothari, Panparag is not an MBA. So there are better managers than MBAs in this world. So entrepreneurship is a different ballgame. So I agree with him. And also, I also agree with Kothari sir. He's telling that digital enablement is very, very important in this particular scenario, especially after COVID. Because, if you see GEM, Government E-Marketplace, Government of India across the country is ordering a lot of products and services from the micro and small and medium enterprises through single platform. It is transparent, it is having wider reach, and there is absolutely no partiality, no bias. And any MSME can participate and they can scale up their business. So this is a great opportunity for through digital enablement.
Yeah, any other observations before we proceed to the second part of this discussion, where we are going to look at solid action points there?
Maybe
Yes.
I'll add, sorry, Anju ma'am, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Sanjeev ji mentioned about the IT management for MSMEs. Let me tell you, Sanjeev ji, Laghu Bharati has taken one baby step for this kind of a thing. We have about 40,000 plus members across the country, and we have already started this. We have started the Twitter account, the Facebook account, the LinkedIn accounts, and we have told all our members to be part of it, so that slowly when the organization grows, then they are also part of it and they start marketing their products, that. So we have just taken a baby step. And secondly, what Mr. Kothari was saying, yes, because this is what exactly I meant, that there was a time when industry was starving, and now the family businesses have really gone down. I mean, there's not much family businesses which are being taken over. The succession planning and all has to be done. But then, since the industry was starving with the skilled workforce and the technology upgradation and the 21st century and the industry 4 coming up, so that is the need of, and now we need to upgrade ourselves also. And this is where the apprenticeship and the going to play the part. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There is one element maybe I'll add, to the management capability. So one of our initial research has shown, and reflecting on what Mr. Kothari said, I think we are finding that, quite a lot of micro and small enterprises are moving to the second and third generation. And I had very interesting, interaction with several such next generation founders. And they are now finding that the world is very different around them. They are educated globally. They come from good management institute. They've seen the global world and the global, world working. When they come to the business, they realize that their father had a different group of people around them who stayed with them for 30 years. They don't have that luxury. The attrition rate, even in micro and small enterprises, is very high. I know of companies who are not able to retain their salespeople, even in the industrial marketing space. And we are working with a few such companies to really help them through functional academy. So what we do is we actually look at the management institutes, which are from tier 3 and tier 4 institutes, who normally don't get internship, who normally don't get placements. And we mentor is actually trying to work out an ecosystem by bringing the jobs available in the micro and small enterprises to the management colleges. So on one hand, you've got engineers and MBAs who are not getting a job or getting very low paid jobs. On the other hand, You've got micro, small enterprises. They are looking for management talent. Each of the small one want 2, 3, 4 people to be hired, and they struggle to hire. So this is one platform we are trying to build, and we had some initial success by providing maybe a dozen sales engineers, maybe providing some HR professionals. HR is also coming out to be a very important area, especially in the small enterprises. As attrition go up, manpower requirement go up, training requirement go up.
Yeah. Okay.
I would only like to add here about mentorship. And so I have gone through this experience of getting an external mentor. So that situation is only good as long as the mentor is there. And in my experience with Empretech over the last 4 years, the peer-to-peer learning is shifting the goal of learning to the person itself rather than coming from outside. So moving your need and urge for learning and providing an environment to learn, which is more demand driven than supply driven, is more sustainable from my experience. And that's a very big change which I've been seeing. And so today we don't have any consultants, which I used to have, and we are our own consultants. All we need is a peer network of entrepreneurs who can consult each other, so that's why that value chain is important, because in my value chain, I will be a consultant to my supplier, or I'm also a consultant to my customer today and to my supplier. So in the entire value chain, when you shift mentoring into something where I have skin in the game and I'm part of that ecosystem, it's a very completely different way of mentoring ecosystem, which if you could build, MSMEs could grow by leaps and bounds.
Great point.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your observations on other panelists, which is very important for all of us to what you feel about each other's opinions and views. Now let's move ahead to the next part of this discussion, where we would request you to share few solid action points. Let me just reset the context once again. Let us look at the big picture of MSMEs and whatever we spoke till now. And from the government side, because MSME sector is directly connected with several government schemes and many ways of accessing government schemes and support and so on. So we are talking about self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and making things on our own, going for local stuff, and there are many things which are actually triggers for MSME to grow, and this probably this could be the right time for the MSME sector to boom, into some 10x or whatever kind of growth you want to see. So if that is the picture and that's the vision, I would like to again get started by asking Dr. Srikanth. So what would be those very important action points the MSMEs, the entrepreneurs themselves should take care of? Maybe top of the mind, 3 important action points for any entrepreneur, including somebody like me, So what do you think are those action points?
Thank you, madam. I will definitely speak about action points. Before that, I just want to say that you have GAFAM, that is Google, Amazon, A for Amazon, A for Facebook, A for Apple, and again M for Microsoft, GAFAM. So all these MNCs, they started as small scale enterprises, and most of them they were started in their parents' garages, because their ideas are brilliant, and then the market support is there, apart from the government of that particular country's support in terms of subsidies, in terms of credit, in terms of policy initiatives, what not. So here, if in India, if you see that that particular policy support is there, but most of the MSME entrepreneurs are not aware of that particular schemes. So for that matter, one thing is creation of awareness. So for that matter, financial education, financial literacy, apart from digital literacy, these are very, very important action points from the point of the MSME's growth ecosystem. So we need to focus more on financial education, financial literacy, and digital enablement. This is one action point I have in my mind. The second one is access to credit. It is not just low interest. Even if it is a higher interest, it is no issue for MSMEs, but it should be adequate and also timely. So some of the schemes recently started by Government of India through Reserve Bank of India, trade receivables discounting system. They need not wait for the money to be received from these big MNCs or big corporates. They simply go to the bank, that too through digital channels, electronic channels. They can discount their invoices. So at the end of 90 days or 60 days, they can, banks can realize that money from the big corporates. Trades, that is also gaining ground. So access to credit and that to timely and adequate credit are very, very important. So this is second action point. The third action point is market linkages. In the sense, recently I visited Kashmir. In that, there are many cricket bat manufacturing units are there. Small finance banks, microfinance institutions, they are having very big business there. How come? They have tie-up with the these cricket bat manufacturers along with gymkhanas. So these cricket bat manufacturers, they can export also through these small finance banks or even through microfinance institutions. All this value chain, they are getting leverage by supporting each other. The bank is getting business, and the cricket bat willow manufacturers, they are getting revenue through exports, not only Indian domestic revenue. And then the gymkhanas are getting the best manufactured bats in the world. So this is the value chain. So market linkages are very important, and there should be an enabling system. Apart from that, technological upgradation should be there, in the sense that Dr. Sanjeev Tripathi is mentioning about digital enablement. If Government of India or any other agency is providing a channel to set up a particular website for each and every business, they will be having digital enablement and marketing across the world. So if Government of India is thinking for the entire MSMEs one website, so that may work out better. That's what I feel. So like a mandi, you are having, let us say, 100 stalls, vegetable seller, fruit seller, and all types of people, small scale entrepreneurs, they come and they market themselves. So you have an omnibus website, and that website will cater to the needs of all MSMEs who are not able to afford this technology. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, it was muted. Yeah, there's one more thing in our research. We found there's a website called Champions on MSME website. Maybe one of you can also speak about it whenever it's relevant. So we found it very interesting. I just remembered when you were mentioning about a hub kind of a website for MSMEs. There's something called Champions. It's an acronym. It is expanded. It's a very long acronym. Okay, let's move on to Ms. Anju. Ma'am, what would you want to say in terms of, let's say, 3 solid action points which every MSME entrepreneur can look into, or for whoever it is relevant in their sector?
You were talking about I wanted to thrust upon the apprenticeship, as you said, but then the important thing is the mentoring, the supervision, and the counseling which they need, and the vocational guidance also, where to go. But then the industry participation in every sector skill council is a must. They don't have, the sector skill councils, the people, those who are heading it, they are on the very helm of the affairs, are very of the high-ended industry, from the medium or the large sector. So we want that the micro and the small industry should also be the part of it. So they know and they can guide also, what are the problem do's and don'ts for the industry. Then the courses which are developed for the apprenticeship or for the, the skill programs, they should be according to the industry relevant. They should not be, the gap mismatch should not be there. And especially the new projects which are coming up, the new entrepreneurs, they should be, it's been mandatory now in NAPS that after the, say, I think about 30 people in the industry, it is mandatory that you need to have an apprentice, somewhere about 15% or 10%. I think for the new projects, it should be mandatory that 20% or 25% you have to take the apprentice for the training, so that the growth starts from there itself for the enterprise. And thirdly, the job-oriented melas, the job-oriented, like we do it, in other words, in different industrial areas should be promoted. so that the industry, as we talked, that people are not aware, the industry is not aware. So once you're doing it in the industrial areas with the local associations and all, so that will take fold, because it will take, it will take the move forward. It will be less, it won't be time consuming. Then it will increase the alertness also of the industry when the apprenticeships are coming, the performance and the quick action. So I think that will pave the way forward for the apprentice and the industries to match together, like we are on the same path. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Manish, would you want to add to what Anju ma'am said, or you want to share a few other important points, which could be your 3 critical important action points?
So let me just add to what Anju ji just mentioned. And I have also been of the same thought that the role of the industry in vocational training, particularly, or any kind of education, is of prime importance. And if you take any of the European developed countries like Swiss or Germans, the delivery of the education is by industry, the policy is by government. At this moment, all the onus is on the government side, and industries are only playing a role of saying that this is not right. So the sharing of the responsibility is an important factor which should be taken up. Whether it is to be done as a compulsory apprenticeship, ultimately the industry needs skilled workforce. And once they understand that it is in their control and it is in their interest, they'll figure out how many apprentices they should keep, rather than us telling us how many they should keep. Secondly, from the industry side, the second suggestion is I would look at we need to build the capacity to absorb, as Dr. Srikanth said, about being able to absorb market, finance, technology. And for that, investment in culture and investment of people in learning about themselves and understanding that in an ecosystem, which could lead to building trust and transparency in the system. The moment you build trust and transparency, you are able to get customer finance rather than bank finance. The best money is the customer's money because they have an interest in your business. These are all linked. So value chain building comes from the building of culture. At the helm of everything, I think, is why would I trust my child? I mean, I would trust my child rather than I trust somebody else. On what basis do I trust? Is basically based on the cultural, not on the skills, but more on the competencies. And I would stress industry needs to look at competency is a very, very important subject today. If you want to come out of all this issue of lack of trust and trust deficit which exists, and that's why we have so many rules and regulations. The lesser the rules, the higher the trust, the more efficient we'll be. Thank you.
Thank you, Manish. Yeah, Sanjeev, to add to all the points, what would you have to say from the perspective of digital enablement again? The 3 important points, which could be the action points for the MSME sector, for our audience who are watching this, and they could be entrepreneurs themselves.
No, thank you so much. I think this has been an excellent discussion. I think I'll just build on my earlier point, and Anjuji also kind of supported that. Industry associations, that will be my first one. Industry associations, I think we need to work with them to really get the digital enablement done. Not only for, bringing the, micro and small enterprises on the web so that they are visible, their products are visible, their customers can see what they offer and they can sell their product. But also, I think there's been so much focus on, apprenticeship and training. Probably, the modules of training available online, the relevant ones based on industry could be very helpful. So maybe there is a need for us to work together with the micro and small enterprises and companies like us, so that we can, enable digital learning, through mobile platform, for example. Now that we've got so much of penetration of smartphones, most of our workers would have smartphones, so how can we really bring that training on their smartphone and they can do self-learning? That will be one from my side. I think the second one, I will suggest that, organizations like NASSCOM, given the kind of money that we earn through software exports, a part of that money should be invested to develop and build the digital setup of the MSME. So I would rather, people who are listening on NASSCOM perspective, I think We should partner with them. They should partner with industry bodies to really invest in digital technology. I know TCS is doing a lot of work in this space, but it's still to reach out to even small enterprises. But there's a big need to work in that space. I think third one is, which is my favorite, is this IT in a box. And I'm sure in the next 6 months you will see some solutions that we would be, working with some of our partners to make sure that true digital solutions are brought to micro and small enterprises who are, less costly, fit for purpose, and also they can help micro, use their data. Some basic data analytics can be built. I visited plants where data is generated. They go to a go to a machine, but after that no data usage is done. There's no analysis of the data to take any business decision. We want to also help bring some basic data analytics so that micro and small enterprises can benefit. So those will be my 3 suggestions, Madhuri.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sanjeev. And also, like Dr. Srikanth was saying, in terms of digital enablement, one good idea could also be like a marketplace kind of a concept where the website becomes a hub for many MSMEs to collaborate.
Yeah.
And I think the post-COVID scenario is already like most of the MSMEs must have tried with some form of digital enablement during the pandemic. And if that can be also leverage their experience and all, perhaps that would be really fantastic. So before we come to the closure, is there any other thing that you wish to add to whatever everybody has shared? We have about 5 minutes. Yeah.
I think there's one thing I want to talk about. Sorry, about the financial stuff. Dr. Srikanth mentioned that, and that probably is the crux of the challenges that our micro and small enterprises face. The biggest need of the hour is to enable banks. In fact, I would rather say, like some of the other countries have done, they should make bank managers responsible and accountable to give loans to micro and small enterprises. There has to be other way around, rather than the micro and small enterprises running after the banks to get loans, collateral free loans and other forms of loans. There should be very important push model from the banks so that this credit is available. That's what is killing the micro and small enterprises. They're not able to plan to grow. They have business plans, they are thinking, but they don't have the fund available. I think that for me will be one of the most important stuff as part of the banking reforms that really we need to do.
Yeah.
I need to, Sanjeev ji, you're right. But, at times it's been seen that even the bank's officials, they're not even aware of the projects. They themselves are not aware of it. They're not aware of the schemes. In fact, I remember I'm banking with Indian banks since past 32 years. And what I have done is that I have been requesting the bank manager, why don't you have a list of schemes down the board in your branch?
Yeah.
Whoever enters your branch knows, oh, these are all the schemes for MSMEs which the bank offers and which we can avail of it. Then he comes to you and asks for the particular scheme. That what do you mean? So they should be able to, there's a
Very
bank
good idea.
officer. So they should be able to explain it to them that this is the scheme for you. How much investment you would like to know, what scheme you would like to take. I remember when I did my ADP, which I told you that it was backed by IDBI, RBI, and the GOI, Government of India, when the bank was the Indian bank. So when we were doing it, they were sitting in the back chair and observing everybody, for the projects and all that. So when I took up, this was the Mahila Udyog Nidhi scheme, which is no more now, and we are still after the government to restart it. It was a very small scheme of 10 lakhs. So when we took this scheme, we told the banks that, yes, now we're taking this scheme. They said, what about the collateral? I said, where the women is going to get the collateral from? You have named it Mahila Udyog Nidhi. So Mahila Udyog Nidhi ka matlab hi yahi hai na, ki Mahila Udyami aa rahi hai aage. So where are we going to get the collaterals? So we got it waived off from SIDBI under this scheme. So it was a hit, though not many of the women entrepreneurs have taken it, but still it has been a success. What I want to explain is that the bank managers, or there should be a cell in the bank who is providing the funds to MSMEs, they should also be aware of the schemes and they should be also aware of the project to guide it. They don't know, they don't have any guidance. Once you're not aware, they'll say, oh, your unit is sick. But they're not there to guide an entrepreneur why the unit is sick when the unit is providing regular, they are giving you the, the stock statement. I usually keep on countering with the banks and all. Okay, when you've got the stock statement, when you know this unit, why can't we go and tell them, why can't we go and ask that entrepreneur also what problems they're facing? They're facing financial problems, a marketing problem, or some other problems in the family, so that you can help them at that time. They'll give you 90 days, or maybe it's been extended to 180 days, and then they'll say, your unit is sick. This is not the way to take. We are even, I'm trying to take up the sick units also, how the sick units can be revived. That is also the major thing.
Thank you.
Great
Thank you,
point.
ma'am. Yeah, Dr. Srikanth, any closing remarks from you? And Manish, any closing remarks from you? Before Sahitya formally closes the session.
So all I can say is welcome to the chaos of MSME industry. We'll find a way out. We always figure out a way. That's what MSMEs are.
No, in fact, Manish, with your enlightened experience, probably MSMEs are looking at gurus like you, and look at the numbers we are talking. Even with small and medium, we are talking about 600,000 small and medium enterprises, and even their situations are not great, leave alone micro. So probably, that peer-to-peer learning, people like you, we need to partner with to bring that knowledge and experience.
I would just like to share that with CED Gujarat, we are initiating a tech entrepreneurship program under waste business model, and that entire training module has been designed by us, will be delivered by us, and the technology will be provided by us. So I'm fortunate to be part of this UN system, which is helping me put all of this together. So it's not that I learned this anywhere. It's something which I got to learn as I went through the system and keep on learning every day. So
absolutely,
it's a peer-to-peer learning, which is MSMEs need to come out and just look at peer-to-peer learning as a very, very important way of learning, like we are doing here today.
Absolutely.
Manish, I have been a part of Impact also.
Great.
I have undergone the that Pura course,
So we can connect again.
Yes.
Anytime.
Awareness needs to be there. Yes. Keep on.
To summarize a few points from the discussion so far, I think we started by looking at the overall ecosystem by focusing mostly on the finance, on the credit, access to credit, or the banking part from Dr. Srikanth, who elaboratedly told us in a very big way about the schemes and also the issues that the MSME sector is facing. Then we moved on to the capacity building and apprenticeship part, which was very elaboratedly again described by Ms. Anju Bajaj. And then we had Mr. Manish Kothari talking about his personal experience and also the potential for MSMEs to go global. And we tried to tie up all these discussions we had from various panelists with the digital enablement part. So we had Mr. Sanjeev Tripathi coming towards the end and kind of tying up all this with the scope for digital enablement. So thank you for sharing all these views. And to our audience, if you wish to get in touch with any of the panelists, you can approach them or write to us. Yes, Sahitya.
Yes, ma'am. It was a very crucial thing to talk about, especially the digital transformation that MSMEs are going through, the women entrepreneurship. And we also discussed a lot of challenges that MSMEs go through that not all of us know. And also our audience might have felt very useful with this session. So on this note, I would like to thank all our panelists for joining us today in their busy schedules and sharing their perspectives, insights, and their own experiences of being an entrepreneur and being a mentor, banker, and for everything. So thank you all for being joining us today and sharing your thoughts on this occasion of World MSME Day 2022. Thank you.
Happy MSME Day. All of you are champions. Bye.
Happy MSME Day to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskar. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.